Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our third and final session of Harnessing Tech to Connect in support and honor of Family Caregiver Month in November. We're thrilled that you're here. My name is Maureen Williams, and I'm the Director of Care Navigation at Four Seasons, the Care You Trust, and I will be your host once again for this program. We've had two previous programs. The first was You Are Not Alone, and the second one last week was Technology for Home Safety. And those are still available on the AARP North Carolina YouTube channel, as well as the Land of Sky Facebook page. Fabulous information that we've learned so far, so feel free to go check those programs out. And thank you once again to Rebecca Chaplin from AARP of Western North Carolina for being our tech master today. Very helpful. So let's get started. We'd like to bring into our room Victoria Moore and Miranda Poe once again. These Victoria and Miranda are graduating seniors from UNC Asheville this semester. Congratulations, ladies. And they are going to share with us once again about a very important project called the Social Bridging Project. And they've been active volunteers. So Victoria and Miranda, please give us some information. And just so y'all know, in the chat box, you're going to see the phone number for accessing this program, as well as an email address. So ladies, please share with us.
Hi, so this project came about this semester during increased isolation because of COVID. And it really started as a way to, just like the name says, be a bridge to people to be able to socialize when that's harder right now. What we mainly do is provide phone calls, and I think Victoria will talk a little more about that.
Yeah, so we provide phone calls and resources for whatever you need, whether it be technology help or connecting to your doctor or finding food resources during this time or about anything. But we are not medical providers or counselors, so we can't give you medical advice or counseling advice. But we also could just listen to what you have going on that week and just be there to support you. Yeah.
That's fabulous. Fabulous. Miranda, did you have more to add to that?
I think that's pretty much it. Oh. Yeah, it's all volunteer run, so no one's paid.
That's
and if you want to refer someone, or if you're interested in volunteering or participating, the number or email is the best place to reach out. So yeah.
Right. So let me ask you, I'm going to want to hear a story. To give us a good thank you, Rebecca, for the information there. Ladies, can you give us a story, an example of an experience you've had recently?
Yeah. So I tend to have calls that want technology help. And one of my people needed help figuring out how to email someone. So I helped them get into their email and help them type the email and send the email. And I think that's very beneficial, especially since a lot of doctor's appointments are scheduled through email. You get a confirmation through your email about your doctor's appointment. And so that's very important. I've also helped with sending text messages. Connecting with your family is important, especially in this time. So
fabulous, because I know so many documents come out by email for people to complete in advance. Awesome story. Thanks, Victoria. And Miranda, do you have a story to share? I love stories.
Yeah, I definitely do. I can share a new one. I helped a man that is, I think he's 92 years old, and he has his caregivers, his daughter, and he's very hard of hearing, so I wasn't able to talk to him much. Unfortunately, that was a barrier. But I was able to give his daughter some information and kind of connect her to. She was wondering if he should get a flu shot or not, if it was dangerous for him to leave the house. So I was able to refer her to the place to get information and for them to come do a home visit to give him a flu shot. And I was able to help with connecting her to get medication refill for him too. So so that was a good experience. I really didn't talk that much to him, even though I tried, but I think his daughter appreciated it.
Oh, I'm sure she did, because you got her and him, the information they needed at the right time. So that is fabulous. See, folks, this doesn't cost anything for the people that are wanting to get information or be partnered with someone like Victoria or Miranda. Thank you all. And if any of you want to be volunteers in this program, the information is on your screen, the phone number and the email. And Miranda and Victoria, thank you all so much for being part of the series and sharing with us. And congratulations on your upcoming graduation. Well done, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. That's fabulous. So it's so wonderful to see that sort of thing right here for us here in Western North Carolina. Well, speaking of Western North Carolina, our feature today is telehealth at home. And our speaker is Edward Jones, who's a Master's of Social Work intern from Western Carolina University, and he's interning with the Land of Sky. And Edward was tasked with doing lots of research and information on telehealth at home. And let me tell you, he's risen to the occasion. So if you have questions as he goes along, please send them in through the chat. We will address those. So Edward, please share with us what we need to know today. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen, and thank you everyone for being here. It's such a joy to be able to share this with you. And I'm not going to make any promises except for it's going to be some really basic do's and don'ts, and hopefully you find some useful information to help you out with the joys of telehealth. So before I get into this presentation, I'd like to give credit where credit is due, and that a lot of my presentation is taken from PowerPoint slides that one of the professors at Western Carolina put together. And her name is Beth Young. So a lot of what you hear is me simply passing on information that she had available to us students. So think about telehealth. What is telehealth? Telehealth is the use of technology in the provision of medical and behavioral health services. The goal of telehealth is to increase access to care, increase efficiency of providers, and decrease costs for both consumers and providers. And flip to the next slide. So now let's look at the history of telehealth. So can you believe that back in 1924, on the April cover of Radio News magazine, there was a depiction of a doctor talking to a young child through a television. Though the television was not invented until 5 years later, this demonstrates that people were already considering the possibilities of telehealth. So if you look at that slide, isn't that amazing? 5 years before television was invented, people were already thinking of telehealth. So you see that television, you see the antenna up there, you got the speaker, the kid there with his mom and older brother trying to demonstrate what the doctor's trying to tell him. I think that's fascinating, how far back telehealth goes. Now let's fast forward into the 50s and see the progress of telehealth. In 1951, at the New York World's Fair, it is believed to have been the first demonstration of telemedicine that crossed state lines. 1957 was the first occurrence of teleradiology that occurred in Montreal. And in 1959, the first teleeducation and telepsychiatry program was started at the Nebraska Psychiatric Institute by Cecil Watson. So we see telehealth actually has a long history of formation and development, and here we are today. And what a great asset telehealth is, especially when dealing with the restrictions of COVID. It was really fascinating. Back in a few weeks ago, I was in on another a little webinar where a presenter said that where we are now with telehealth is where we are meant to be 10 years from now. That the technology was already in place and was just implementing it more and more to get to the place we are now. What caused the rapid acceleration was COVID. And I think that the reason why technology was supposed to be 10 years from now was that people probably were not buying into telehealth already. Probably people saw that, well, why do telehealth when I could go visit my doctor? Well, now with COVID, in which restricted access to doctors in a lot of ways, all of a sudden everyone wants to buy into telehealth, and the technology quickly accelerated, so here we are today. So if we flip to the next slide, if there isn't anything else you get out of this presentation, I want you to remember two things that are very important: privacy and security. Flip to the next slide. Now, privacy, for the purposes of this presentation, I'm defining privacy as thinking in terms of who can overhear your conversation, what can people see through your camera, and what can people see on your screen. So in a sense, think about it as who is physically present around you as you're doing telehealth. What can they see and what can they overhear? And also, people on the other side of the screen, what can they see through your camera? So privacy, very important. Next slide, please. Now security. Now security I'm referring to in this presentation is the security of what's being transmitted through your computer, through your phone, or whatever device you are using. And the security of that connection so that is someone tapping into that connection to steal your information and data and whatever you're trying to share with your doctor, the private confidential information. So privacy and security are really important when it comes to thinking about telehealth and the use of telehealth. Next slide, please. So there are 4 platforms for telehealth. We have phone calls, which include landline, cellular, internet-based phone communication. We have text messaging, we have email, and we have video conferencing. So let's first look at phone calls. So security with telephone communications. Now, the most secure phone communication is going to be with a landline. Because we think about it, who's going to be bugging your phone and who's going to be actually digging up your cable and tapping into your phone line to steal your information. Now, unless you are in bad with the CIA and people are out to get you, I don't think your phones are going to be bugged or going to be tapped. Okay, it's just too much effort to go through there. So those are the most secure way of communicating with telehealth. Now, cell phones are not quite as secure or private. And one thing to keep in mind is that your cell phone, when it comes out of the box, it doesn't necessarily have all the security features you think it would to cover your conversation and to protect the communication. So my suggestion is that if you're going to use your cell phone a lot for confidential communication, and especially with telehealth, see your service provider, your cell phone carrier, your cell phone provider, and ask them what features are available. In my own research, I've seen that there are a number of features that are available that come with various phone plans, and there are also added protections you can add to your monthly payment plan, depending on what you need and what features you're most comfortable with. Okay, internet-based phone services are only as secure as internet connection. So some people like to use their internet for phone communication. Sometimes it's the only way they have. So keep in mind how secure is your internet connection when you're using the phone through the internet. Now let's look at text messaging. While text messaging is a convenient way to share information, ask your provider if they accept this type of communication and if the information shared via text are secure. Now, text messaging is a great way for telehealth. Let's give you a little example. Several years ago, I was involved in a really bad motorcycle accident. Fortunately, I was fully geared and protected, but during my fall, I severely broke my collarbone. And so I went to see the first orthopedic surgeon. He took a look at me and he looked at the x-rays And he kind of turned white and started backtracking. He's like, oh, I don't know. And he said, you know what? I know the perfect guy for you. He's a trauma surgeon. And do you want me to see if he is willing to work on you? Well, yeah, of course. If you're kind of afraid, I want the guy who's confident, right? So he takes out his phone. He takes a picture of my x-ray and texts this renowned trauma surgeon. So a few minutes later, he comes back, says, sure, I'll take him. And I was sitting there thinking like, wow, did he just really send my x-ray via text message? Okay, that's kind of cool. And remember, this was several years ago when this happened. So that's one way of telehealth, text messaging. Now we look at email. So with email, keep in mind, the internet communication through email is only as secure as your internet connection. And with email, sometimes you'll see at the bottom from the sender saying that that it is a secure email connection, so when you see that disclaimer, that's usually a false sense of security, and that emails often get tapped into, often get stolen, and people hijack email accounts. Why? Because they want to hit up all your friends and family, saying that you're lost in Africa somewhere, and they want to send money quick to get you back in the United States, right? So scammers are always after an email. So if you're going to use your email for telehealth, my recommendation is to only share what you want the world to know. In other words, when you send your email, just imagine the whole world looking at what you are sending. And if you're okay with what you're sending through email, and that also applies to text messaging, then go ahead, that's fine. What you do not want to include in your emails or in your text messaging are information such as social security numbers, maiden names, date of birth, passwords, etc. Because if someone gets any one of those or all of those from you, wow. If it's ever happened to you, you know the pain of reclaiming your identity, because they can do horrible things with that. So be careful of what you send via email and text messaging. So now we're going to look at video conferencing. And this is when I talk about telehealth, this is probably what you think about the most, is video conferencing. And when I'm talking about video conferencing, I'm referring to doctor's appointments and also support groups, using like Zoom or some other platform to do support groups and the do's and don'ts with these things. Now, video conferencing, it can be done with anything, a computer, a laptop, tablet, smartphone, basically anything with a camera that can be connected some way to send and receive the video. And keep in mind, video conferencing, the communication is only as secure as your internet connection. Now, if you're using your cell phone connection as either a device or as a tether, be aware that video calls use a lot of data rather quickly. So you say, oh, well, I'll just use my cell phone plan and I'll video this this meeting. Do you know how much data you're using via your cell phone? So be careful of that. When you do schedule your appointment with your doctor, ask them what video platform the doctor wants you to use. If the platform requires a download for something you do not currently have, download the software well in advance of the appointment. And then also get familiar with the platform and try to practice using it in advance with a family member or a friend. Because when you have that appointment with your doctor, you only have so much time, and you do not want to be wasting that time trying to get connected with them and testing out your audio. And oh my gosh, did I log in right? Do I have the right password? Do you see me? Do you hear me? Hey, you don't want to waste your doctor's appointment on that. So try your best to have that down pat before you have your meeting. Another important thing is to make sure you have all the information you need for your appointment right with you. And that is actually a benefit of telehealth, because you're not going to be in your doctor's office somewhere and realizing, oh my gosh, I forgot that insurance card. I can't go back home in time to get it and bring it back to the appointment. Well, you have your session here at home, your appointment at home. What's really cool is you can have all that information conveniently laid out in front of you. So if you have it all together, it'll make your appointment go a whole lot smoother. And if your doctor asks you questions you did not anticipate, you have the information. Also, what you want to do is make sure you have your checklist of what you want to ask the doctor and any questions, concerns, or anything else you want to discuss with the doctor. Because remember, in telehealth, once your appointment is over, it's over. And you can say, oh, wait, by the way, and grab the doctor as he's walking out the door. Like when that screen goes off, well, you got to schedule another appointment to get that access with him again or her again, right? Okay. So when you're having this meeting with your doctor, using the camera, please be aware that you are granting people, oftentimes strangers, access to your house visually. So what is it that you want to have visible on the camera for others to see? Okay, like you see, when I was preparing to give this presentation, I took a lot of care to go around the house to find, okay, what is like a nice solid background behind me that doesn't give anything away? I mean, you see a wonderful little coffee cup there, maybe making you thirsty for some hot coffee on a kind of chilly day, but you don't see any pictures or anything that gives away information that I do not want broadcasted, right? So be very aware of that. Also be aware of personal information that you do not want other people to see. Make sure all that, if you have it with you, is not on your camera. And if you're going, my recommendation is for you to use like a laptop or some way that your camera is in a predictable spot so that you know what the field of vision of your camera is. It's great if you want to use your cell phone. They have wonderful cameras that are great for telehealth as well. But when you have a cell phone, don't be communicating with your doctor or in your support group doing this number. Because when you're doing this and you're kind of being a little casual, relaxed about it, guess what? You're just giving strangers a tour of your house. And if you have information like a phone number or made a name or something down here, wow, you just kind of showed a bunch of people that sensitive information. So if you're going to use your cell phone with telehealth, make sure you have your phone set up, leaning against something in a stable place so you know what the field of vision of your camera is. Okay. Another thing to keep in mind with these meetings, and this is kind of a joke that has happened a lot of times, is who is walking behind you. How many times people have family walking by in states of dress and undress coming across the camera? And it's kind of funny, but it happens. So when doing telehealth, it's convenient, but also make sure to go through the inconvenience to make sure everything is set up so that nothing gets broadcast that you don't want broadcasted through the camera. Now, another helpful thing is if you use the platform of Zoom, Zoom has a wonderful, they call it virtual backgrounds. And so what it does is that you can have your camera anywhere and it will hide it with a background of your choosing. Now I noticed that with using a cell phone, and I also noticed with using a tablet that feature isn't there. But if you're using a laptop or a camera, you can use a virtual background that will hide what's behind you.
Edward, it's Maureen. I've popped in. Sorry. We have a few comments we'd like to share with you, and I think all of us want to go get a cup of coffee or hot chocolate.
Sure.
So we wanted to share, if you don't mind, we've got a web tech czar. So this is just some comments, and this is the knowledge of using tech tools and how important that is for telehealth. So thank you, Rebecca, for that one, sharing that one. And here's another one. There's a nurse advocates, RN patient advocates. And if you have an RN patient advocate, that is also a great resource for telehealth assistance. These are people out there who can help you set that up within the confines of what Edward's sharing with you. So thank you, Rebecca. Oh, one more. Here we go. An experienced work. Yes, Asheville has the EWI, Experienced Workforce Initiative, where telehealth can also provide new employment opportunities for those of you who might want a new career adventure. And do we have others, Rebecca? There we go. Gosh, lots of them. The WNC Broadband Project, fabulous. And yes, telehealth is a great broadband application. Thank you. Lots of great comments, Edward. Look what's getting stirred up there. All
Awesome.
right, thank you, Edward. Take it away. You're keeping us smiling.
Cool. Okay, so now let's look at personal appearance. So if we can flip to the personal appearance slide, it'd be great. Now, I love this quote by Judith Rasband. I think that's how you say her last name. Anyways, the way you look directly affects the way you think, the way you feel, the way you speak, the way you act or behave, and then the way others react or respond to you. So personal appearance. Even though you may be in the comfort of your own home, keep in mind how you present yourself. Wear a shirt or top that is respectable and looks nice. Appearance of hair, how does that look? Basically, wear what you would when you would visit your doctor or support group in person. Okay. So I know being at home is tempting. You kind of like, you want to be more casual. You want to show up to your appointment wearing pajamas, your hair can be all disheveled, you can be drinking your cup of coffee and be hey doc, what's up? And you're just kind of drooling over yourself, you're trying to munch on your breakfast. Is that how you want your doctor or your support group to see you? I mean, how do you think they're going to respond to you if you don't take the time and effort into your presentation? So instead, try to look as professional as you can. So what people see is how you want to be viewed and respected. Another great tool is headset. Consider using a headset for these reasons. They greatly improve communication with online platforms. They eliminate echoes from the computer mic picking up the computer speakers. How many times have you been in a conference meeting or talking to someone else and you hear that annoying echo? So the sound's going through your speakers and right to your mic, so it's creating this endless loop, which is like being in a big stadium and you have the echo, 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 echo. And you have the poor person trying to speak, hearing that annoying echo. So headsets reduce that from ever happening. Another thing is that these headsets places the mic right in front of your mouth, which is important because when you're talking, you can be talking either at the computer, face here, or you can be talking away, or you can be like kind of daydreaming or sitting back, or maybe something's got your attention over here, or you're looking down trying to get information as you're talking. When you're doing this, guess what? The mic never leaves the front of your mouth. So that whoever's on the other end, your doctor, your support group, whatever, they can hear everything, and oftentimes really clearly. Now these range in price from $10 to over $200. Cheaper models may work okay, but if you do a lot of gaming, a lot of communication online, I would recommend going for a gaming version, and that's what this is. This is HyperX from Best Buy for about $50. The reason why I recommend going this gaming route is because gamers drive technology, because they want the most realistic experience, the most clear, precise experience they can have online, because that's their world in which they enter into. And so what they have is going to be the most comfortable and best sounding equipment out there. So that's just a recommendation. And also with this headset, it has a regular mic, a regular jack like this that can plug into my computer, my cell phone. If I had a gaming system, it can plug into that. So it's very versatile. And if in case you're curious or wondering, no, I'm not getting any kickbacks or any royalties from Best Buy. But if you mention my name, maybe I'll get something sent my way, right? Just kidding. Yeah, Edward Jones, good luck with that, right? Anyways, special considerations when meeting in groups such as support groups. Mute yourself when you're not talking to eliminate feedback and background noise. Okay. Once again, how many times have someone been talking off camera and you hear that conversation going on and everyone else is trying to have this support group meeting? Everyone's like, well, they just please mute themselves. So yeah, use the mute when you're not speaking. keep the camera on so others know you are actually present and are listening. It's something like showing up at a support group and you see someone's initials or name show up, but there's no video and they are muted. So are they even listening to you? That being said, there are going to be times when you're going to want to turn off your camera because you don't want to see something. So say, for instance, your dog jumps on your lap. Okay, that's cute and adorable, but it could be distracting. Or if someone's walking by and you have be in camera view, you may want to go ahead and turn off your video, deal with that. So a few little considerations there.
Thank you. Hey, Edward. So
Yes.
we have a few comments or questions we'd like to address. Is this a good time?
It's excellent time.
Sure, perfect. So that business about muting yourself, I think if anyone here has been on any meetings like this, you know how challenging it is when someone hasn't muted himself or herself. Any good ways any good phrases to share and about how to make sure a group knows to mute themselves?
Oh, wow. I think everyone's got to take personal responsibility for that.
Mm-hmm.
A good practice is that as soon as you log on, go ahead and hit your mute button. It's better for people to say, oh, we can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself? Than to have the embarrassment of sharing something with others. They're like, oh, by the way, can you mute yourself? We just heard that.
I think that's a brilliant strategy. That's worth repeating. When you join, mute yourself straight away. I love that. Great. So back to the privacy thing, Edward. Besides your name, your maiden name, your social security number, your date of birth, passwords, are there other things that we think people should be really concerned about that we don't want floating out there in the cyber world? What other?
I would be very careful with scanning and sending PDF attachments of medical records.
From your house, you mean? From your house.
From your house.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be very, very leery of that.
Right. And as a registered nurse, I know in visiting people in their homes, I have to be careful because a patient identifier is their address as well. So people be careful about, don't float your address out there either, especially if you've got pictures of beautiful little children behind you, right? Yeah. Don't do that. And then, and just if I could just remind people, if you've never texted before, contact the Social Bridging Project. I think that those volunteers will be happy to help you get set up with understanding texting. So there it comes. There's the contact. So thank you. Great work, Edward. Keep us moving forward. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. So now if we can flip to the slide License to Practice and see a picture of the country. So now we're going to go into telehealth and ethics with License to Practice. Something you need to be aware of that mental health providers can only provide services in states that they're licensed to practice in. This also applies to telehealth. So if a provider is only licensed in North Carolina, they can only practice in North Carolina. So the client must be physically present in the state the provider is licensed to provide service in. So if you live in North Carolina, and say, for instance, you want to telehealth with a therapist in Georgia, okay, you have to make sure that the therapist in Georgia is licensed to practice in the state of North Carolina and where you live, okay? And so let's do a scenario. Say, for instance, you have a therapist in North Carolina that you absolutely love, you're going to, they're great for your family, and then you have to move to Tennessee for some reason. And he's like, well, with telehealth, I can keep that provider. A question needs to be asked of your provider is, are they licensed to practice in Tennessee, where you're going to be living, or do you have to find someone else? And in the time of COVID, you may want to check with your therapist and with your service provider to see if there are any exceptions made during this time of COVID to where it's say, okay, well, yes, in these times you can keep a therapist or you can use a therapist in a different state, even if they're not licensed to practice there. But that would have to be an exception if the exception even exists. So mental health providers have to be licensed to practice in the state in which you are meeting them from. So I hope that's clear. If not, we can clarify that more in questions. Also, when it comes to this, using telehealth, I highly recommend to shop local for telehealth. There are advertisements I've seen where people are saying, oh, come to us for telehealth. We offer great therapy. We have all these proven results. We have all these wonderful support groups and all that stuff for you. When I see those advertisements, alarm bells go in my head. I'm like, where are they licensed to practice from? And even if they are licensed to practice where you're living, do you want to have only telehealth, or do you also want to have the option of in-person visits? Because in therapy, seeing a therapist in person, there's something very healing about that. And even just getting out of your own environment and into their office when conditions allow for that to happen is also a great avenue of healing and recovery too. So just because something may seem appealing in a different state far away and it's all legit and legal, it doesn't necessarily make it the best option. I really believe that the best options oftentimes live within one's own community. So pursue that first. Okay, so now next slide, please. Okay, here's a very interesting slide based on information from Forbes magazine from 2017. And this is kind of startling when I saw it. So hackers will pay 25 cents per credit card number, but they'll pay up to $1,000 for a health record. If you see in the slide, there's the link to the article. Okay, why is that? Okay, because what's in your medical record, your health record, is way more than a credit card number. I mentioned earlier, it could be date of birth, it could be any kind of information, health information that you do not want to get out there that can be used against you. Think about even those who are running for public office, how valuable that information is if that gets hacked. Okay, it's been used in the past. So basically, if anyone can make a buck off of you, they will. And having access to your medical records can be them striking gold. So now let's look at telehealth legalities. Informed consent. Informed consent is the documentation of an agreement between the provider and the client about the treatment they will be receiving. So utilizing a telehealth platform does not remove the need to have signed documentation. So informed consent, you are giving the doctor or therapist permission to treat you a particular way. So say, okay, they cannot treat you unless you have that consent given to them. And also, so these documents, even if it's all telehealth online, there are ways to have documentation signed. Make sure that you give permission for treatment, how you want to be treated, when, and all that stuff. Make sure that is in writing and documented form in some way, shape, or form. Privacy and confidentiality. Privacy is a patient's right to control information that pertains to them. Confidentiality is the responsibility of the provider to protect a client's privacy. Okay. And then the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, also known as HIPAA. Providers have clients sign privacy statements and may have them sign release of information in order to collaborate with other agencies. Signing of the release of information is the sole discretion of the client, and they should never be passively or aggressively forced into signing a release of information. So release of information is, okay, you're with your family doctor and you need to see a specialist because you have horrible sinus issues and you need to go to an ear, nose, and throat specialist. The ears and throat specialist needs you to sign information, needs to sign a release of information so that they can know your whole medical background so they can treat you appropriately. So it's important that information is known and doctors and staff have access to it. But with this documentation, it is important to take ownership of your health information. Your health information is yours. Guard it and make sure you know who has access to it and how it's being used. So if you keep that in mind, you'll be very careful when you sign agreements so you're not just sending your information to who knows where. It's your information, guard it securely. Next slide, please. Okay, now we go into the portability of telehealth. So don't be afraid to take advantage of the portability of telehealth. You can use telehealth practically anywhere there's a stable, secure connection and where you can maintain privacy. Enjoy being outside on a beautiful day like today or on a trip. So say, for instance, you want to have lunch with a friend. Well, with telehealth, you can say, hey, you know what? I got a doctor's appointment online around that time. Can I bring my computer over there and have that appointment, and then we can have lunch? Then you have lunch outside on the porch where you're socially distanced and all that wonderful stuff. And so you get to have your doctor's appointment and lunch on the same day, same afternoon. Isn't that great? So don't be afraid to take advantage of the portability of telehealth. Just once again, make sure you're aware when you're in a different location who can hear what you're communicating and what information is visible that you're sharing with your doctor, okay? So be aware of your surroundings again. But don't be afraid of the portability of telehealth. It's great. Okay, decorum and respect. Using a remote platform does not do away with proper decorum, communication, and respect. Be respectful and use the same communication skills remotely as you would if you're meeting in person. Yes, even when you are frustrated and or upset.
That's a good stopping place, isn't it, Edward?
Yeah.
To make an exclamation point. First of all, my jaw is just now coming off the ground about what hackers pay for our information. That's amazing. Hopefully that'll impress upon people. And related to that and how to protect things, someone has asked if you could repeat what not to scan from home. Would you share that again?
Okay. I would be very cautious in scanning health records and sending them through your email. The next session I'm going to get into is with patient portals, which I believe are more secure than a regular email connection. So before you scan in information to be sent via email, contact your doctor and see how secure that connection is going to be.
Perfect. Thank you. And there was one more question about asking about any ideas on encryption methods to try.
That is beyond my realm of knowledge, in all honesty.
Okay.
So
Right.
that's something to once again ask the doctor.
Well, and that maybe is just taking us perfectly into the patient portal section. So let's just go into that section there to help us out. Thank you, Edward.
You're welcome. So to have patient portals, okay, they're an excellent way of sharing information with your doctor. It's a secure way to view and share information and communicate directly with your doctor. Patient information forms that used to be filled out in the doctor's office can be filled out in the patient portal. You can also schedule appointments, request prescription refills, etc., or all additional tasks and then some you can do within the portal. And when you set up a patient portal, usually there are a lot of permissions you need to agree to in order to set them up, and which we have seen is a very valuable thing. There's a lot of progress being made to make portals safe, secure, and easier way of sharing information with different doctors and different offices. So now, from what I understand, there are third-party portals that are out there that multiple doctors and specialists use, so you can put information in one place in a secure way that can be shared with multiple doctors, so you're not re-sharing that information over and over again. But this is a development and something to keep an eye out for. Generally speaking, patient portals are very secure, and the information that is shared on them is kept confidential, and only authorized people are allowed to see that information. Now, with patient portals, There are headaches involved with them, no doubt. They can be a pain to set up to learn how to use. But when we think about it, anything that's new can be a pain to use at first, right? So whether it be a smart TV or even something as simple as a weed whacker, you get this something that's supposed to be all super convenient, easy to use, and you start using it and you get all angry and frustrated because it doesn't start or run like it's supposed to. You usually just kind of give up and say, forget it. Or do you work with it until you figure it out and it becomes a valuable tool? Same thing with patient portals. They can be maddening at times getting them set up, but once you get them set up, they can be a very invaluable aspect and part of your healthcare. Okay, so flip over to the next slide, please. The joys of usernames and passwords. Chances are you may be asked to sign up for several portals for the one you're caring for you and the one you're caring for. So basically, you may have to sign up for multiple portals. Each patient portal requires a unique username and a unique password. Resist the temptation to use the same username and password for all your portals and for your credit card and for your bank and for whatever else. Because guess what? If it's easy for you to remember, wow, a hacker comes in and gets your name and password. Think of all the information that they have access to. Okay? So the balance is between risk and security. You know, when you figure out how to pick your names and passwords. Now, how do we store this information in a way that is secure? Do not store your usernames and passwords on a device that can be hacked. Do not put this information on pieces of paper that can be lost or stolen. You do want to put usernames and password information in a secure location where you can easily find them and direct someone to get them for you. So when you label the information, don't say, hey, list of usernames and passwords, and write them all down. Someone finds that, someone breaks into your house, they sees that, oh my gosh, that's more valuable than a diamond ring sitting on your dresser. So when you write that information down, try to use code and use language that only you are going to understand what you're looking at. So make it seemingly as meaningless as possible that someone looks at it and doesn't give it a second thought. Just a way to protect your information. And also try to find a way of not matching them together so that if someone does say, hey, these are username and passwords, they'll have a hard time figuring out what goes where. So any way you can make it more difficult for a hacker to access that, the better off you are. Okay. So the last little part here is some basic questions. What platforms and services do doctors allow for telehealth? For example, do they allow for Zoom, FaceTime, etc.? This is up to each doctor because they're going to have what their equipment is compatible with and their software that they use and their own personal preferences. So you may want to, or not you may, you need to check with your doctor to find out what platform they use. Also, does insurance cover telehealth? Make sure you ask your insurance provider and know that the definitions that they have may be different than your own perceived definitions of telehealth. So you say, hey, do you cover telehealth? And they say, sure. Okay, well, maybe you're referring to video conferencing and maybe they're referring to landline communication. So you go on a video meeting with your doctor thinking that you're covered, you may not be covered. So be extremely clear with your insurance when asking them what they do cover and don't cover regarding telehealth. Okay, so thank you for listening. Are there any more questions or comments?
Yes, there are. Hey,
All right.
Edward, fabulous, fabulous work. So that patient portal business, I work with various practices where you're right. Each physician or provider will have a separate platform upon which they use video conferencing in particular. So that's really important. And what Edward stressed y'all in terms of checking to make sure that your insurance is covered, will cover telehealth, very important. Right now, Medicare is covering it. Just please check before you go down any other paths. And go ahead, Edward.
Yeah, and just because the insurance currently covers it doesn't mean it's going to cover it in the future. Because
Thank you.
is it Medicare or something that is thinking about withdrawing coverage?
Well, and there's that chatter out there in the pandemic, so or reducing the amount of reimbursement. So that's just a real proactive piece on our parts as consumers, right? To make sure we know what our coverage limits are. And many of the practices are very understanding. So, and then I would just encourage all of you all, who are watching, the section on the patient portal here, and Edward has been leading up to so many things in the presentation. Fabulous, thank you. But if your practice does have a patient portal, I'm going to echo Edward's recommendation. Try using it. It's a wonderful way to access your provider with far quicker responses than if you had to wait on a return call. So some of you on this program may have done that too. So, all right. Well, Edward, this has been fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for bringing a subject that most of us have probably teased with at some point and making it lively and entertaining and humorous at the same time. Thank you, Edward. Well done. Well done. Very good. Rebecca's going to pop up the link for a survey of our services, of the programs that we've offered. We've been very honored. Edward and I and many others have been planning this for some time to be able to offer this in honor of National Caregiver Month, National Family Caregiver Month. So please complete the survey. You'll note the link below. There we go. It's popping in, I see, to the various chat rooms. And share with us. Help us share additional programming. Thank you, Janie. Help us share and refine additional programming in the future. And we're going to be doing it in creative ways, just like what Edward's been talking about today. And here's the nice thing. Not only will you share with us information, it'll enter you into a drawing for door prizes, which include digital or talking thermometers, robotic animals. They are adorable, and door alarms. And so distribution will be by selection among those who completed the surveys. So, and you can also share this event on Facebook too. There's lots of ways to be entered. So, but we really cherish and request your feedback. It would be very helpful. So thank you very much for attending today. Edward and Victoria and Miranda and Rebecca Chaplin behind the scenes. Ruth Price, who was the driver behind much of this, all of this. Thank you all so much for being a part of this with us. We hope you've gained at least one pearl from all of our conversations, and please share it with others. That's the best thing that you can do for yourself and those that you love. Take care, and thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. Bye-bye.